Hello, everyone, and welcome to another LoLa Podcast episode. And we have a bit of a treat today. We have the lovely Jasmine Christmas on the screen, and right before Christmas time as well. Sorry, I had to make the joke. I had to.
No, it's there. It's right for the taking. I don't blame you at all.
Right there. I had to say it. So, as a bit of a background, Jasmine is the COO and co-founder of Dead Nice Studio. They are a UI and UX design and engineering studio, and it's built by three ex-Keywords teammates. They wanted to prove that a player-centered design can be both wildly creative and operationally sound. So, your background, Jasmine, you have a background in blends production, business strategy, hands-on player experience work. You've got time working with clients such as Activision in your experience, PUBG, and Sony. We've got some big names being dropped straight away at the beginning of this call.
Just a little sprinkle, yeah.
Oh, yeah, just sprinkle them around. It gives you the credibility you don't need because you're already amazing. I mean, at Dead Nice, you're leading the operations, team scaling, and client partnerships. You're helping guide the studio to profitability. And actually, you said last time, and I don't know how often that happens, probably never, you've been profitable from day one, and you've had steady growth through one of the toughest periods in the game creation industry. So, Jasmine, I can go and waffle and keep talking about all the stuff that you've done and just big you up to it, but I don't think that's necessary. In Dead Nice, you are a female-founded studio. You're being led by a group of amazing people in a traditionally male-dominated industry. How did you do that? How did you carve that niche? And how are you able to be so successful where everyone else is having a hard time? Over to you. Just tell us how this happened.
Well, thank you so much. That is a lovely introduction. But yeah, so we've been working together, myself, Sam and Agnes, as a team in video games for nearly a decade. But we've known each other for up to 15 years at this point, working in like different iterations and lifetimes. But we all kind of found our way together about 2017, I think. And we had kind of all different backgrounds, they're creative designers. And as we kind of grew together, we found that UI UX was something that united us. We know how valuable it is in game design, and we also know how under supported it can be at game development studios. So we have seen it time and time again where game developers will have a single person to do both UI, UX, and implementation on top of everything. And we basically wanted to support those guys, not just with production and designing and implementing into engines, but also to help them understand their player, the user journey, and then bring in a narrative frame of thinking as well. It's a beautiful method of creating a through line from beginning to end for the player without even realizing that they are enjoying it. You know what I mean? The best UI is immersive. And basically, we saw this opportunity to really elevate and support game developers as much as we could. And we wanted to give it a shot all by ourselves.
So when did that happen? When did you go independent? When did you build the business?
So we started last year. It was April 20th. I remember precisely because the horoscope said it was the luckiest day of the year. And that was the day
obviously it was. Being profitable from day one. I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, we were so lucky because we had clients kind of ready to go. And because they knew us and they trusted our process, we were able to just kind of hit the ground running. Yeah, and it was difficult because obviously it didn't give us time to set up lovely processes and systems. So we really had to find our feet very quickly. But it also meant we had the freedom because we didn't need to go and source grants or anything like that. We were just able to set up the way that we needed to be set up. So in terms of security and systems, we were ready. And because we are, well, we like to say small but mighty, it meant that we could be very concentrated in our efforts. We didn't have to build a system for a team of 80 people. It was a small core team that we knew could be very lean and agile.
Yeah.
So again, like in terms of profitability, we know our strengths and we were able to build the studio around them rather than the other.
Well, that's not the only interesting thing about the way you work, because unlike many other creative studios, you are fully remote. You work from a distance, and how can you have a creative process that is as efficient as what you guys are doing whilst not even being in the same room with each other? How do you do that?
It's definitely a challenge. The traditional way of working, obviously, you would all be in the same room, you would have a whiteboard, paper, old school methods of actually creating. In a digital age, there are tools and software that we use, such as Miro, that allow us to kind of emulate that experience a bit more. But generally what we'll do is we'll carve out time to sit together, at least on a call, and then just go through it, just like empty our brains onto the table and pick through what we need to and bring it into a structure. It does, like I said, it does come with its challenges because it's sometimes not quite as natural. But we have found that our way of working, it can be spread out across the world. We are very much global. In the sense that, we don't have a fixed base. We make sure that everyone we're working with is kind of the same mindset. We make sure that there is always a regular communication so that we can get the best out of everybody and no one feels like an island.
Fair enough. I mean, how much, I'm trying to understand a bit more about your creative process, because you've got an expertise into the UI and UX of the game development. A lot of the game development indie studios that you might be working with, they don't necessarily have the experience you do in terms of putting the timeline together in the story, designing the right UI elements to make each one of the interactions with that game as immersive as it can be. A lot of the times you've got a team of techie people that can create the tech, but not necessarily someone who has the eagle-eye view of how it all comes together. And I'm guessing that's where you come in, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we have some of the most amazing creatives and technical minds. I know I'm biased, but I can say that quite confidently. And we can see both sides of the coin. The beauty of what we do is, again, we don't want to isolate ourselves. We want to be working as closely with the client as possible. We want to basically just amplify their vision. So we will take all of that information. We always say you can't give us too much information. And then we kind of reflect it back to the clients. We always go very wide in our research because research for us is one of the stepping stones of everything that we do. And then once we kind of have those kind of high level ideas, then we can refine them into something that's a bit more concentrated. And again, like, we love it when we can kind of start at the beginning of a project. Like, we say to people, like, don't be scared if it's a gem of an idea, it's just a little nugget, come bring it to us. We can help with that concept phase, because we find that there is so much opportunity to bring narrative into it. So we really do love to be at the beginning. But the creative process that we have allows us to see it at any point. If you have a story that you want to tell, we can then build that into the overarching design without any issue.
Okay. How much of the work you do is on the designing and creative side, and how much of it is on the technical and implementation side? Where do you draw the line?
So because we're an end-to-end studio, so we obviously typically start with design. So this would be UX design to make sure that the user flow is there. Then we would dress it with the UI design before obviously bringing that into an engineering sphere, because we want to make sure that everything we do is going to work. There's no point us making something nice and then for it to just fall flat immediately in an engine. So we try and walk both lines, basically.
Okay.
We know that some people are going to have they're going to be married to their design language, and that is absolutely fine. So we can come in right at the end just to help with the engineering, or again, we can come in at any point to help with the design. Yeah.
What was the most difficult project you had to deal with in terms of finding the position where you need to fill in the gaps, but actually not remove the identity of what was already there as well?
That's a great question. I mean, I can't name names because of NDAs, But we have had a few late in the day clients, let's say, where they kind of get to a point where they know that the game has got to ship, but unfortunately things aren't working. So they have all the design set up, and they know that they can't change it in time, but they need to make it work. So we can just come in and just polish, basically. We can see the things that are really broken, we can fix those, and then we can make sure the actual systems work as well. So like with the programming, we can support all of that. I always say to people that there's very little that we are scared of. We've seen it all. So yeah, we have seen some horror stories, but we're here to make them into dreams.
Yeah, it has to finish on a positive note, regardless of how horrible it has been in the process.
Exactly.
So in terms of a timeline, if you remember, we follow the past, present, and future approach. So in your past, you've had experience with not necessarily just with your business, but outside of it as well, which is where you've met. Is it both of your co-founders or just one of them?
Yes, yeah. So we met, Agnes I met while I was working in film, and then Sam I met while I was working in commercials. So we've all had varied history.
Did all three of you just come in at the same time and make the decision to make a start on this? Or were you all aware of each other, but at some point you came together later down the line?
So it's a very small industry in London. Everyone kind of knows everybody. So I knew Agnes through her partner. We were introduced. We got on very well. I knew Sam from commercials. Agnes invited me into games, and then I invited Sam. And basically, we just stayed together up until now. We haven't left. You know, we're very lucky that we haven't gotten sick of each other yet.
If something works, and if you complement each other's work, then suddenly it becomes a long-term thing, doesn't it? Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, well, that's it. I always say, they're stuck with me. Like, sorry, this is it. I really am like a little limpet.
Oh, I can see them both watching this later down the line and putting comments underneath. Oh no, we know we're stuck and we're trying to get out. We can't.
Yeah.
Oh, so in terms of today.
Yes.
You came into a business together and you probably had some ups and downs. Where have you landed? So today, what's the mission? What's the vision? What's the thing that drives this whole approach of the way you support the game developers?
I mean, so from a business standpoint, obviously, we are technically very new, about 18 months in the game. And as you mentioned earlier, like the industry is in turmoil right now. So a lot of this work that we've been doing, although we have been profitable, has been about stability and stabilizing the business at its core. We want to make sure that any growth that is happening is very careful and deliberate.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that, the frameworks are there so that we expand, we're safe to do so. We've heard horror stories of people getting too big too fast, and we did not want to do that. We take our craft very seriously. So the guys are always pushing their kind of design limits to see what's new, what hasn't been done. They are looking at new technologies. Our technical director, again, absolute wizard. So, there's a lot of research and development happening and planned for next year. But at the moment, it's a lot about making sure that the team structure in particular is there. So where we are doing a very niche service, we have like three main streams, basically UI, UX, and engineering. Okay. We are making sure that whatever the request, we can service all three elements seamlessly and without any kind of issue. We know that there might be a UI director on the client side, and therefore if they just need technical support, we're here. If we need some, I'm so sorry for the word, ideation, we have designers, we have creatives on the other side who can then support the vision. So
on YouTube stats, you've got like the drop-off point of where people leave the
that's it. Ideation. Boom.
Vertical drop.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I hate myself a little bit for saying it. At least it's not cadence.
You said it, I didn't say it.
I did say it.
There we go.
It's embarrassing.
So it's great that you're able to have all three facades of that creation process, because you can't just do the UI design. There needs to be a UX intention behind it. You can't just do the UX. You need to be able to deliver it in the technical aspect of it, and they all need to marry together to get a result that's actually cohesive, rather than something that looks really good but actually functions rubbishly, or something that has a really good story but actually doesn't look good, or the story and the timeline and the UI is great, but you try and actually use it and it falls over itself, and you get a character that's stuck in a wall and you can't move out of it. So it's quite an interesting approach. You're a small studio, but you have a holistic approach to the whole design process.
Yeah, that's a really lovely way of putting it. Thank you.
How's your industry looking right now? You've mentioned twice that it's in turmoil. What are the actual insights into that industry today that you can see affecting the way you work, and you're trying to protect against them, but also capture opportunities?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's very much that. I mean, so the industry, obviously since COVID, has been in decline. People, unfortunately, are leaving their houses now, so they're not staying in playing games as much as we would like.
Not many people have said that, by the way.
I mean, I'm on the side of team stay in the house. So, obviously COVID bad, but I had a lovely time just being in my home for a couple of years. But of course, then this has proven to be unfortunate in terms of revenue. People kind of over-corrected as a result. And a lot of people, sadly, are being laid off. They're being made redundant, just point blank being fired at some places. It is very, very difficult. There's a lot of good people out there looking for work. So it's a blessing and a curse for us, but as service providers, a lot of studios now, they're just not able to make hires. So we can kind of come in as a very agile solution. We come in, we do the work, smash it, and then we can go. So the overheads for game developers obviously are a lot less in the grand scheme of things. But unfortunately, potentially it means that someone isn't being hired full time. But what we are doing basically is we are growing our network. So all of those people who have lost jobs, we're reaching out on LinkedIn, we're doing events, we're trying to support them as much as possible and bringing them into our wider network. So if there is opportunity, like, we want to boost them as well. Like we're called Dead Mice for a reason. You're like, we don't want to screw over anybody over here at the expense of this project, because there's no point. There's enough for everybody.
It's a rising tide. If the whole industry is booming, then everyone is finding
everybody wins. So it's riding the storm out, basically. In terms of the wider state of things, because there is a lot of technologies that are coming out that could be beneficial, others that might not be. There's almost a duality into this, because you could be talking about the tools that are coming out and how they're affecting the way you work and whether it needs changing to match what tools are coming out, or the other way around. What's the interest in the market, the actual users of the games, and what do they attract to themselves? Like a great example would have been the Stadia, Google Stadia. It came out and it was the new big huge thing. Cloud gaming is where everything is going, and it fundamentally makes sense. Because why would you go and buy a gaming PC, which is really expensive as a gamer, when you can do a subscription on Stadia and play your games in high resolution? That flopped, and Google actually pulled the plug. Whereas you've got other takes to the same technology today, things like GeForce Now, and NVIDIA is famously known for being able to do that because they've got the infrastructure. And then you get Amazon Luna, that's out, so they've got it as part of their Prime subscription. And that's a positive, but it almost feels like it's a bit of a Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever else situation. You can't get the game you want, you just need to play whatever the platform's giving you. So then people are falling straight back to, well, I want my own RGB gaming PC in my office because I like seeing it and being able to play my games on my own time whenever I want to. It's local. If I wanted, quote unquote, pull the plug on the network, broadband, and play locally, you could potentially do that. Many games don't allow you to do that, I know that, but that is something you can do if you have your own PC. And then you've got things like in the development world, you can go and generate nice designs with AI generative stuff, and it looks good, but it's not something that you can work on. It's just the result. You can't see the process of creation. But something that has been interesting to me was the timeline and storyline, and having a dynamic storyline as of potentially AI, allowing the characters to grow through the process.
I don't know if that's something you guys have played with or considered.
So obviously it's a very hot topic, AI. It's kind of the word on everyone's lips at the moment. I mean,
remember that drop we just had of the ideation? It's back up again now because
here we go.
Everyone wants to know now.
Yeah, you're welcome, algorithm. But no, it is a tricky one. So for us, where UI and UX is so human centric, we're at this point in time relatively safe. AI can't quite get the nuances that is required to make successful UI UX. So like, fingers crossed for us that stays as it is. In terms of like game development, like I think what you're kind of getting at is perhaps like NPCs, so like non-playable characters. People are using that AI to create almost like conversations, to give them more kind of human interactions. I think that's very interesting because, like you say, it kind of drives a narrative. I don't know the parameters. I think people are still experimenting. It's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, I don't want it to be at the expense of human people losing their jobs. For us, I think the most relevant kind of application for us is quick iteration.
Okay.
So we work very quickly. A client can throw us an idea, and we'll take it away. And basically, because of our experience, we've been doing this a long time, we can go and we can test it really quickly. Okay. AI for us is more of a kind of tool to do that in some respects. So we can kind of go, okay, what does this...
When you need to cut corners for the sake of time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's more just a kind of like testing point rather than the final application, because we know whatever's that they're going to churn out, garbage. The actual real world implications of then taking that is just not going to translate. So whatever happens over here, even if it's like a beautiful design, we will still go and we'll actually translate it into something practical. It will never quite hit the same levels that we are at, again, to toot our own horn.
You will get to a better point at some point, but again, at the same time, is like you say, there's so many different layers that need to be considered. You can't just expect, even on the technology aspect, you can't expect a single model to be able to encapsulate all the above. So iteration is needed. You need to be able to see the things that are going wrong before you can choose the things that are going right. But also, it's not just about AI. I know everyone's just going around talking about AI. Things like, in the industry, you've got EA Sports has recently been purchased by Saudi Arabia, very famously in the gaming world, and that's one of the biggest gaming producers in the world. And it has been a US dominated industry, and then suddenly one of the big boys being purchased from across the world. That is a big deal. So what's happening? What's happening in the geopolitics of the gaming world?
Well, I mean, there are huge developments. I think where, the bubble has kind of burst, people are just looking for different avenues in order to kind of boost themselves and stay afloat. I mean, where so many studios are closing, I would say the kind of beauty of that is there are a lot of phoenixes rising from the ashes. Like, I don't know if you saw the Game Awards yesterday, but an indie developer, Claire Obscura, like, just clean sweep, just cleaned house. It's absolutely amazing to see small teams do so well on such a grand platform. So yes, the big boys are looking for ways and means to kind of keep themselves surviving and thriving as best they can. But in all of this turmoil, the positive spin is that these indie studios now are like growing from the ground up, and they are allowed to flex their creative muscles. They're allowed to push boundaries and make something new rather than something a little bit more formulaic, because they're their own studios. Yes, there is a lot of politics going on. There will always be money men, shaking hands behind closed doors and whatnot. But the beauty of it is that this is a creative industry, and the people within it are always going to find ways to be creative.
And I guess it's partly because it's a consumer-led industry as well. Because if the public decision-making power moves in a certain trend or a certain direction, the studios that are able to quickly capture that or even drive it, those are the ones that are going to benefit from it. And if you're as big as, like you said, the big boys, sometimes steering is very hard when you're that big.
Yes.
So the too big to fail approach doesn't work in this scenario, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to be able to creatively be cycling through all these different ideas and being able to do that. But then you get things like the GTA 6 release, which is forever delayed, and every time it's delayed, the amount of interest around it goes up. But eventually, it will drop. And what happens when it does? Are you expecting it to go well for the company? Are you expecting Rockstar Games to get a massive hit because everyone has been so overhyped that when they eventually land in it, they'll be like, is this what we've been waiting for the last 10 years?
I mean, so GTA 6 is, I assume you would have seen the trailers and everything. It already looks amazing. Yeah. Like we have a lot of friends, at CD Projekt Red. I don't want to use them as a cautionary tale. Other people have done it before. But releasing things before they're ready is a recipe for disaster. Yep. So I appreciate the fact that they are delaying. Like you say, that does generate a little bit of hype. It might even be a tactic. Who knows? Yeah. But I would rather wait for something finished. Yes. I was talking to someone about this recently. Back in the day when games were on a disc, you didn't have infinite patches. You didn't have DLC. The game had to be finished.
Yeah.
So like now people can release stuff and go, oh yeah, we're just going to patch it. We'll fix it. Don't worry. But back in the day, that wasn't the case. So you had a finished product at least.
Whether you like it or not, it's out.
It's out, exactly. So like you have to kind of make it happen. And I think for now, like the kind of lesson to learn in this day and age, where people are trying to push release to get the revenue, is it worth hanging on a little bit longer to make sure the product's better, to keep the fan base and the players happy? Yes. To have a longer stream of revenue in the future. It's a balance.
There is a danger though as well. I think we're coming back to that NPC development all the time and being able to store information. Where is that information ultimately coming from? It's coming from a processing unit. It's going to be a PC somewhere, a server somewhere that's running this, whether that's locally on your own machine or whether you're doing requests onto a cloud infrastructure that then gives you results. At the end of the day, it needs to run somewhere. And when it comes to development of games, the creative process and the human mind can generate some things that technologically might be very difficult to achieve efficiently. So one of the dangers that I've seen with the GTA 5, and something I've been researching on probably a month ago, it's that they've developed the graphics to a level that they're so realistic. It looks amazing. You've seen them. And then they come and say, well, actually, the game at this moment in time is 600 gigabytes. Well, it would be, because of what it is. But then the first release that's going to come out practically is going to be on a PS platform. It's going to be a PlayStation release. And when it does come out, there isn't a PlayStation version today that can handle that kind of weight to make it run the way it's supposed to. So what if the result of all this other hypeness, you get that end result, but you can't actually run it on anything? So instead, you need to now cut it down to create a distilled version of what's actually practical to use. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, where I'm sure they already have some kind of memory implementation in the system where every time you do something as a character, they put a weight onto the result that you've done. Whether you're a really nice person and you stop at the red light, or whether you're a person that just drives through crowds in this GTA version, and then the people around you remember what you've done and interact with you in that certain way. That's not quite AI or AI in NPC, but it is some kind of memory. You're trying to remember what's happened. And that itself, I think, is actually a cut down version of the process of using AI, because they could use AI. And if they did, they wouldn't be able to run it locally. They'd have to API call into a cloud system, and then that becomes a cost for them to bear. So they thought from the beginning, we can't run this locally. What's a similar thing we can do, but keep it practical? So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the final result is, but it would have been even more interesting to see the creative process. And that's something you've got a lot of knowledge on, seeing it seeing the decisions being made and how soon you can make them, so you can actually go and do the result rather than pivoting midway and then having to have those problems. So I know we've spoken about your most difficult customer, or at least a difficult situation. Do you have any twists, any of this type of creative process where you reach a point where it's the point where everything drops, the cards are on the table, and you're like, oh, we've gone the wrong way and we need to turn around?
Very, very rarely has that happened, thankfully, because we always make sure, basically, I say to every single client, at least once a week, we want to have you on the phone. So like we show everything that we have done in that week to their faces, so that we can then get like real-time reactions as well, because like there's only so much you can hide in a face. There have been times where we have perhaps misunderstood a brief. However, like you say, it's a case of pivoting, it's reacting. We never want to, we're an incubator. We take the egg of someone else's idea and then we help them hatch it. We're just warming it up so that it becomes a beautiful chicken. But we don't want to go away too far and go down the wrong lane. We can present multiple options, but thankfully we've never had anything quite as catastrophic as going like, oh, we think it should be pink, and they go, actually, it's blue. We have been very lucky on that front.
So in terms of the future then, you are now in a position where like you said, you slowly and iteratively find the best moves for the business, so it remains afloat in a way where it goes through the same recycled process again and again, but at the same time you have your eyes open for the opportunities of getting the right people in who might not be at work right now, or engaging the community in a way where it triggers everyone. But what about the future? What are you seeing in terms of your industry? Do you think it's going to come to a stabilization and start going upwards, or do you see any other downfalls that might happen as a result of a bubble that might be out?
I mean, I think the kind of biggest issue I can kind of see in the future is pricing of games, because obviously these big games, they take big teams. I did some very heavy name dropping earlier. I know the kind of sizes those games have to grow to in order to get it to the quality level. But you could be paying 60, 70 plus pounds on that game. Like, it's a very big commitment from the average player to invest. So like, I understand why the cost is like that, but realistically, are players going to continue in this day and age to pay that amount? It's very difficult. But we've seen indie successes. I was reading today about Peak. It's a co-op game, indie studio. It's amazing, like 10 out of 10 would recommend. But that was just supposed to be a little game jam project. So there are kind of holes in that, whatever. But people love it. It's like £6, I think. And then when it's on sale, it's less. So you can have a lovely experience with your friends for a fraction of the cost. So are people going to turn towards that more and kind of reject the old school AAA? I don't know. Time will tell. But I think, for us, we are just continuing to kind of build long-term partnerships so we can help both sides of that. With the AAA, if they want to help bring prices down, obviously we are positioned to kind of come in quickly and in a very agile way, set them up for success and then leave, so that obviously they don't have to hire these enormous teams and then sadly let them go. And then for the smaller studios, again, we always say, we're literally gamers. I have a Steam Deck and 2 children, and the Steam Deck has allowed me to play games every single day, despite the fact that I have these little gremlins, running after me all the time, getting snot all over me and stuff. Fine. But like, we are literally gamers. So like the indie studios, we want to support them as best we can. So in terms of like what we can offer, we always try and make sure that there is a value there to also set them up for as much success as the big guys. We are equal opportunity gamers. We want to make sure that everyone is going to get a slice of the pie, because there is enough pie for everybody, really. Nice.
And that's a great sentiment as well, especially when you're in an industry where people are creative. They're actually putting their souls into this creative process that they're putting down. What about the economics though? Because you could say it's a very strange industry in gaming, because you've got a lot of different models. And when it comes to the AAA games, you said 60, 70, 80 pounds to buy a version of the game, but then that game does continue to get updated and patched and hosted. And a lot of the times, your information is not something that's hosted in your local game only, but it's actually going cloud-based, so you can download that user file and play on a different platform later on. So how much of that is actually continuing that way, like it's always been? Back in the day, there's your disc, there's the copy of the license that we give you. You paid once, it's done. But if someone like Peak is charging £6 for that game, but that game continues to use cloud infrastructure, there's a cost associated to that. How would they handle the ongoing of the game? What if in 10 years' time, there's still players that are trying to play this game? As part of the license, it should be live.
Yep.
But practically, can you keep a game live for 10 years, especially after its time has come and gone?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, a couple of prime examples I can give you is Humans Fall Flat and the 2 Point series. So like 2 Point Museum, they are doing some fantastic updates. They do have paid DLC, but they are still bringing like these amazing creations to the players for no additional cost. And again, like the upfront cost of the game is not massive at all. Like, I think, you know, obviously there are things you can do to monetize, you know, in-app purchases, game purchases, and whatnot. But a lot of the smaller studios now are kind of almost gifting players with these additional extras, and it's wonderful because then you're building a player base that is so loyal. So, like for example, I'm very loyal to the 2 Point Studio. Anything they put out, I will buy, and like that is, they have built that relationship with me as well, and I trust them to create quality stuff.
Yes.
So where, you know, the larger, I won't name names because, you know, clients are my clients, but there are some like larger franchises which I've kind of become a bit jaded with because, you know, they aren't putting the effort into the player base that they used to, and it is noticeable. So I think, you know, players will be loyal to you if you treat them with respect and you make sure that the games are for them and not just for, you know, Mr. Businessman wherever in the world counting his pennies somewhere. To making sure that things are player centric, I think, is just the way to go.
Is that when you have a consumer business, then you need to consider the consumer.
Yes, exactly. Which you think would be you know, just a standard kind of mantra for everybody, but it does often get forgotten. And I think that's why, you know, we wanted to specialize particularly in UI UX, because we're very passionate about accessibility. I'm quite blind myself, but that is very minor on the scale of like disabilities that are out there. And basically, if you're able to make your game accessible, you're expanding your audience. You know what I mean? So like, if you want to increase your revenue, make your games accessible. And like with UI, there are just certain things that we will do naturally that will do that for you. But also we can expand, and, you know, we can build teams and play tests to make sure that everybody out there, whatever their needs, are accounted for. Yeah. So, you know, thinking about the players, that's how you're going to make money.
Well, this is the time of the podcast where I start thinking about what the title of your podcast is going to be. And thinking about the players sounds like a strong title. But it needs to be a bit more clickbaity. Do you have any ideas?
I love a pun. So, you know, with it being Christmas, I would suggest All I Want for Christmas is UI, or something along those lines. What else? Let me think.
All I Want from Jasmine Christmas is UI.
There you go. Boom. It is the perfect marriage of all worlds.
Is it a bit too punny? Are we playing too much?
Lean in. That's very much our brand. Is we're a bit silly, very serious about UI, very silly elsewhere.
I mean, Dead Nice is already such a great name for a company. I mean, the branding around that is, the opportunity for branding is amazing. And whoever thought of that, just a big thumbs up.
It was a team effort. We are all collectively spooky and cute, so it just fit the bill.
Spooky and cute. I was going to ask about that. I can see a bat on the background. I can see a skull on the left hand side. I'm looking at a Christmas tree, which looks like it's got pumpkins on it. Is that all skulls?
These are tiny 3D printed skulls. So I'll give you the big version. This is the big boy. So this is our real life mascot. If you come and see us in real life at any of our events, I have plenty of these because I have a father-in-law with a 3D printer and a lot of time in his hands. So you're very welcome.
I'm going to say, every time he sees your name on the calling card, he knows that you're calling for a 3D
Oh,
printer.
yeah, that's it. I'm like, oh, Nigel, sorry, we've got an event coming up. Could you just warm up the printer for me? And
As you grow, when you get to the point where you decide, I actually want to have our own office now, maybe your office needs to be a big version of that skull.
I mean, I would 1,000% do that. And I'm also pretty confident the team would be up for it as well. Could you imagine a giant spherical skull and we just sit in the middle?
They do look like the not fluorescent. What's the word? Luminescent.
Yes, so they are actually glow in the dark resin. I made that very clear that I wanted them to glow in the dark. So yeah, you're absolutely bang on.
Oh, you've given me some ideas now. I just literally brought a 3D printer in the office. I'm gonna go and find a UV resin that's glow in the dark, and I'm gonna.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, I mean, it suits the color branding that we have, and also they glow, so it's fun.
Yes.
We also made a dead nice beer as well.
A what?
We made a dead nice beer. So
beer.
Yeah. So I should have brought a can, but we made a hand brew co in Brighton. They are a female founded and led brewery. We actually made a dead nice beer for the Develop conference this year. Delicious, by the way.
Nice. Well, I'm going to look for it. Is it sold online?
It's not, but I'm sure I could send you a couple.
Yes. I know I'm drinking this Christmas. So, any last words before we close down this podcast? Do you have any nuggets you want to fire out? Have we said everything already?
I think I probably said everything sensible I'm going to say today.
Everything else that comes out of your mouth now is outside the sensible bracket.
Yeah. You know, I was saying how like we're a bit silly. I'm into the silly stage now, unfortunately. So no.
And on that note, everyone, thank you for watching our podcast today.
Shut it down.
Yes, close it down now. Thank you very much, Jasmine. It's been amazing. It was great having you.